Good afternoon, everyone. I'm San Francisco Mayor London Breed, and I am joined here today with Commissioner Sean Dury of the California Highway Patrol, Major General Matthew Beavers of the California National Guard, our District Attorney, Brooke Jenkins, our Police Chief, Bill Scott, and President of the Board of Supervisors, Aaron Peskin, as well as a representative on behalf of Sheriff Paul Miyamoto. We are here to talk about the partnership that will be established between the state and our federal law enforcement agencies. Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to Governor Gavin Newsom for answering the call, for taking on this problem head on, and his willingness to be a partner in the work that he knows we need to do. As a former mayor of San Francisco and someone who grew up in this city, he understands the value of partnership and also understands the value of San Francisco as it relates to the entire state. Here locally, we have been doing, I think, an extraordinary job between our police department and our district attorney's office. They have been working hand in hand as partners to help us address the many challenges around public safety, but more specifically, the challenges related to this fentanyl crisis, which includes the large number of people who have died from overdose deaths, as well as the open-air drug dealing, the violence associated with this, and how it's impacted the Tenderloin and Soma communities considerably. Time and time again, we have, reached out for resources to try and get support, and the fact that this is finally happening and it's something that has never happened before will be significant for our city and will send a strong message to those who are perpetrating these crimes, that are holding communities hostage, that we will do everything we can to work together to make sure that there is accountability. Some of the challenges that have recently been highlighted that you may not be aware of. Just this past Tuesday, the San Francisco Police Department made an arrest of someone with 5 kilos of fentanyl. And just today, our district attorney announced the charges associated with that arrest. And the point I want to make is this is something that was not happening previously. And the fact that our district attorney and our police chief are working hand in hand, and just between January and March, this past quarter, the amount of drugs seized was over 150% from even last quarter, demonstrates to the public that we are doing everything we can. We are making the arrest, we are bringing charges, we are being aggressive as we possibly can to hold people accountable, and I want to appreciate the leadership of our district attorney, Brooke Jenkins, and the leadership of Bill Scott and the teams that they represent, because it does take a village, it does take partnership, and now that partnership is expanding on a statewide level. And so we are appreciative to have our state representatives here to talk about some specifics of what they plan to do, but we will not provide all of the details of what we plan to do to the public, just the basics. We know that when this plan was first mentioned, when the governor came to San Francisco with the Attorney General Rob Bonta and they did a walk in the Tenderloin, they heard the pleads and the cries of the community asking for help, asking for something different. Well, this is something different, and I am looking forward to a real change in our city. Separately from what we plan to do around law enforcement, people have consistently tried to say really horrible things about San Francisco and the challenges around safety. And I say, like any other major city, we have our challenges. But there's so many other wonderful things happening in San Francisco right now. Just this morning, I was out at MLK Middle School with kids who were scooting and biking to school, and I was at Fort Mason with a number of high school leaders who all are public school students who are thinking about ways to change the future. All over this city, there are communities coming together for various reasons and loving and enjoying our parks and open space, our public schools. The Warriors will be playing tonight in the championship and concerts and activities, and we just hosted one of the biggest conferences, the RSA conference here. Over 40,000 participants descended upon San Francisco, and many of them had a really great experience. And the point I'm making is, it's time for us to write our own narrative about what San Francisco is, because we live it and breathe it every single day. And part of adding to the value of our amazing city will be the fact that we will continue around our reforms and the work we need to do in the criminal justice world, but there will and there must be accountability associated with that. And so with that, to talk a little bit more about what our collaborative plans are is Commissioner Sean Dury of the California Highway Patrol.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Dury. I'm the Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol. The CHP has a mutual interest in ensuring the safety of California's communities, and we are committed to collaborating with our partners here in San Francisco. Under the direction and leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Breed, state agencies have partnered with city officials, and we have identified specific action items we can take immediately to improve the current issues in San Francisco. Beginning May 1st, next Monday, the CHP will deploy officers to work side by side with San Francisco police officers to enhance public safety within the city with a focus on specified high crime areas. This will be accomplished through three main objectives that the Highway Patrol will be engaged in. First, we'll assist the San Francisco Police Department by increasing uniformed officers in specific areas with the intent to deter and disrupt criminal activity. Second, we will provide specialized training to SFPD officers to assist those officers in their ability to detect, deter, and prevent drug and alcohol-related crimes. And finally, we will use the Highway Patrol's existing resources from our specialized units to provide investigative support to develop criminal cases that will disrupt illegal narcotics trafficking. The CHP's mission is to provide the highest level of safety, service, and security to the people of California. We are proud to stand with the California National Guard, the California Department of Justice, the San Francisco Police Department, and the San Francisco District Attorney's Office in a collaborative effort to address these public safety issues. I'm now happy to turn it over to Major General Matt Beavers.
As the Commissioner noted, I'm Matt Beavers of the Cal Guard, and I think what I want to do up front is dispel a lot of rumors that the California National Guard's presence in this is not going to be boots on the ground in San Francisco. The support that we're going to provide really consists of very talented and dedicated soldiers and airmen that do essentially criminal analyst work. And that's taking a look at all the information that gets generated by law enforcement agencies, taking that information, synthesizing it into actionable information that we can map cartel networks, both operating in the city and outside the city, understand those networks, build a common operating picture of it, and then work to dismantle those networks. And I think that's hugely important. We have about 14 or 15 folks that are working on the ground today, supporting the Northern California high-intensity drug trafficking area. And we have proven success in this area. I'll give you an example. In San Diego, the San Diego and Imperial high-intensity drug trafficking area where we support, in the last month, in March alone, almost $50 million of fentanyl seizures that our soldiers and airmen supported. So we can do it in San Diego, and we intend to replicate it and do the same work here in your city. And with that, I'll be followed by District Attorney Brooke Jenkins. Ma'am.
Good afternoon. I first want to say thank you to Governor Gavin Newsom, as well as General Beavers from the National Guard, as well as Commissioner Dury from the California Highway Patrol for offering their assistance with tackling the open-air drug markets here in San Francisco that Chief Scott and our departments have both been working very vigorously to address over the last 9 months together. What we know is that this is not a problem that's easily solved. And the more support and collaboration that we have allows us to address this problem more expeditiously. And so I'm very excited about the prospect of this collaboration and this new partnership. This was an opportunity that, at least from the vantage point of the National Guard, that was offered to my office about a year or two ago and was declined. That was not in the best interest of San Francisco. What's in the best interest of San Francisco, and particularly communities like the Tenderloin and in South of Market, they deserve to make sure that they get to walk down the street without the situation that we currently see. An additional benefit of this collaboration is how it will assist us in the prosecution of these cases. More recently, we have experienced that many of our criminal defendants in the area of narcotics dealing are asserting a human trafficking defense. It requires significant evidence on our part in order to rebut that defense. And so I am very excited at the prospect of having additional resources to be able to dispel the notion that people are not here dealing drugs of their own accord, because that is clearly what is happening. Today, we announced charges against an individual, as the mayor pointed out, who was in possession of 5 kilos of fentanyl. That could kill more than this entire city. That individual, we argued, should be detained based on the public safety risks that he presents, and the judge at this point has agreed to that detention. We are moving the ball forward in trying to keep San Francisco safe, and as I've said, this partnership will only allow us to do that on a higher level. And at this time, I will bring up Police Chief Bill Scott.
Thank you, District Attorney Jenkins. I'd like to start my remarks by thanking our Mayor, London Breed, for reaching out to Governor Newsom. I also like to thank Governor Newsom, and I want to thank all of our partners that are here with us today, as well as our Board of Supervisor, President Aaron Peskin, who's here with us today and is a supporter of making our city a safe city. So I'm going to fill in some of the blanks with some of what you've heard here. The Tenderloin and the epicenter of the crisis that we're having with fentanyl is a very small area, about a square mile, generally, about a square mile. San Francisco police officers have made 269 arrests in a very small area in the course of 4 months. When you think about that, think about your own community, and think about a 10-block radius from where you live, and think about 269 drug dealers dealing poison on the streets being taken from your community. That is what the people who live and work in the Tenderloin have to deal with day in and day out. And that has to stop. Our police officers have confiscated 39,000 grams of fentanyl year to date. The conversion, that's about 85 pounds of fentanyl. That's a lot of death and destruction. Think about it for a second. And that is exponentially higher than what we seized this time last year. We are working very hard as a city to address these issues, but it's not enough. And that is why we have our partners here. That is why we have Commissioner Dury and General Beavers and their respective organizations here to help us. And we need the help. I want to make a few things very clear. This city is committed to policing the right way, to policing with dignity and respect, to respecting the people who live, work here, and even respecting the people who commit crimes here. And our partners are here to enhance that. Nothing short, nothing more, nothing less. They will enhance the values of this city. Most of us who live here and work here, the mayor has led this charge, our district attorney, D.A. Brooke Jenkins, myself, Assistant Chief Azar from the San Francisco Police Department who are here, Supervisor Peskin, and almost every public official in this city have heard over and over again that this has to stop. People are fed up with it, we are fed up with it, and our attention needs to be on the people who are causing the problems. not on each other. Our attention needs to be on the drug dealers that are making all this happen. And that is exactly where our focus will be. We know this is not a San Francisco alone problem. We know that these people who deal drugs on our streets have tentacles in other cities, in other states, and perhaps in other countries. And we have to do everything we can to bring every resource to bear to identify every piece of these networks that are killing people in our city, and we have to dismantle them. And that is exactly what we intend to do. And whether it be DA Jenkins and her state prosecutions, or whether it be federal prosecutions, we will do what we need to do to make this problem better. Because together we are stronger. So I want to again thank all of our partners for being here. I know there's a lot of questions, and I think at least the general questions have been answered. What's the National Guard's role? What's the CHP's role? We are blessed to have a leader to pull this all together in our mayor, and we're going to do everything that we can to work together to solve this problem. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Chief, this focuses on fentanyl. What about people selling crack and heroin? Are they going to pass?
Yeah, we still arrest them too. We seize crack, cocaine, powder crack, meth. We see a garden variety, but when you look at the medical examiner's reporting of the last couple of years, and this year is no exception, what's leading the charge and killing people in this city is fentanyl, by far. It's not even close. So that is why we have focused on fentanyl, because that's what's literally killing us right now, and we will continue to focus on that. But we do make arrests and seizures for all those other illicit drugs as well. Sure.
General, you talked about cartels. Yes. How does that factor into what we're seeing here on the streets?
I think it's appropriate place to start. The drugs that come into our cities across our state, it's not independent of each city. It's not independent of each county. It's fundamentally transnational criminal organizations that bring narcotics into our state and into our cities. So if we start from there, if we look through that prism, I think it gives us a good jumping off point to do the tough analytical work to determine who those folks are and understand their network and their associations and then go after dismantling them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Just the mere presence of our officers being there with the SFPD officers, we believe, will help deter and disrupt criminal activity. Our officers are trained in criminal apprehension. They will take action if they see it and make appropriate arrests. Let me be clear, we're not coming in here to take over. The Highway Patrol is going to supplement San Francisco's efforts, and we'll complement them in those efforts. Yeah, that's a fair question, and I think we're early in this. We're having discussions on how we will measure the success of it, and those are things that we'll establish in the days to come.
You know, the most immediate measure of success is we have to see a change in the streets. I mean, you've heard Mayor Breed say that. You've heard me say it. We have to see a change in the streets. When people can't, I was out there last night, 10 o'clock last night. There were people visiting our city from lands far away that for a short second before our officers cleared it, could not even walk down the sidewalks. You know, that has to change. Arrest statistics tell a story, and we will keep reporting those statistics because it's of public interest and people want to see that we're working and that we're doing something about the problem. But if I came in here and told you that, I told you 269, if I told you 1,000 and you walked out of this building and you still saw drug dealing on the streets, that would probably not matter to you. And if you had to see that every day, you probably don't care about any statistics that we bring before you. So we have to see a change in the streets. And we have to see a change in behavior, more importantly. you know, it's not okay to do what people are doing. And it's not okay not only to deal drugs on the streets, but to use drugs on the streets. And if anybody thinks that's okay, you know, it's not.
What are your goals for the program? Like, what do you expect to see within how many months? Like, do you expect the Tenderloin to be clean in half a year, or like what are your expectations for this?
Well, these things take time, but we do expect to see some immediate changes. You know, here's the reality, and our officers see it every day, and many of you see it every day. When we deploy large amounts of officers in areas in the Tenderloin or anywhere else in the city, the problem tends to go away while we're there. Now, that's not the long-term solution, because sometimes that can be unsustainable, but at least temporarily that'll go away. So we want to disrupt this behavior. We want to make it difficult for people to come in this city and county and do what they've been doing, and that's dealing drugs. The longer-term plan, as many of our speakers have said today, you know, there's an analyst, please. There's dismantling the organizations that are bringing these drugs to our streets. There's prosecutions, both state and federal prosecutions. And at the end of all this, what we want to see is some of these organizations go away and be dismantled. That's a sign of success, because when that happens, you won't see what you see right now on our streets. I can't tell you. I know what the commitment is from these people that are standing here. Right now, we're going to do whatever we need to do, and the mayor and the governor will get together and decide. We're trying to build this for sustainability, you know, and part of that process is putting infrastructure in place or enhancing infrastructure that already exists so we can sustain the effort. The last thing we want to do is clean the streets up for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then everybody goes back to their regular way of doing things, and then it starts all over again. We have to sustain this effort, and so that's how we're trying to build this.
You're talking local, states, and what about the global link with other countries that are manufacturing, we know that are sending narcotics to different places, and they're sending these drugs back to America? What about that particular type of action? Who's dealing with that?
Well, our federal partners are definitely dealing with that, and that's a little bit of what General Beavers, you know, was talking about with the work that they're doing in San Diego. This takes partnership. I mean, that question, the answer to that question is this takes partnership, and no one organization that's standing before you can do this alone. And people who do this, people who deal, people who distribute, people who bring narcotics to any city, they don't care about borders. They don't care where the county lines are, the city lines are. All they care about is making money, and they kill people in the process. And if we aren't smart enough to join together to fight this together, then shame on us. And I applaud the mayor for asking for this help, and I applaud all of our partners for willing to say, hey, we're going to help, because we're all impacted by this. Thank you.
Yours is just logistical. How many CHP officers are you, and National Guard are there officers?
Well, I can have Commissioner Dury and General Beavers answer their parts of the question, and then you had something for me.
For the safety of the officers and just the integrity of the operation, I won't disclose exactly how many. I can tell you they're all coming out of our San Francisco area. The CHP has about 75 uniformed officers assigned to the San Francisco area. In June, we have an academy graduation scheduled to graduate, and I plan on sending an additional 9 officers, so it'll bring us up to 84. I will tell you this, the officers that volunteered to come in and work alongside SFPD officers all volunteered for it. They're all from San Francisco. They love the community. They want to be there and serve the community. And so I think that's an important aspect from our viewpoint.
So we have 14 criminal analysts currently assigned to the Northern California high-intensity drug trafficking area. Those 14 will be assigned a multi-jurisdictional task force that will include the folks that are up here on the stage today. So 14.
Mayor, for those, I know the chief addressed this, but for those who have some concerns about this, what do you say to make sure that this is not leading to another war on drugs?
Well, I have more concerns about the number of people who are dying from drug overdoses. I have more concerns about the families and the people who are struggling in these various neighborhoods that are overrun by drug dealers who sadly have increasingly become violent and fight over territory and a number of other things. So as far as I'm concerned, my plan is part of what's been missing, because this city has been extremely generous with regards to social services. In fact, when you look at our city's budget, the amount of money that we spend for nonprofits and organizations to help with treatment, to help with second chances and support and resources are mostly in the Tenderloin, Soma communities, and that will not change. We will continue to invest heavily in providing opportunities for people and second chances and all of those things, which is different from what was happening in the 80s. There were hardly any alternatives, or no one didn't even really seem to care about that. Everything was about arrest, lock people up, and in fact, this is different. This is program services, second chances, opportunities, but also accountability. And what's been missing has been accountability, and that's what this is all about. I do want to also mention that measuring of success includes reducing the number of drug overdose deaths in this city, which we had seen a decline at one point, and we're starting to see a spike and an increase. And so we want to make sure that we are saving lives in the process of the work that we're doing here in our city.
We've seen various initiatives in the past, every 5 years or so. There was the federal initiative, Tenderloin, Operation Safe Schools, and really we've only seen this problem become worse and worse. Do you feel like this initiative is going to have different results than those previous failures have? And what specifically?
Well, I hope it does. And I think that, just recently, you recall when we declared a state of emergency in the Tenderloin, and we set up a linkage center, which was supposed to be the place where we not only help people, but also officers had an alternative place to take those struggling with addiction. And it didn't quite work out that way for a number of reasons, including our challenges around capacity with our police department. But ultimately, we can't just sit back and throw our hands up. We need to be innovative. We need to do everything we can to provide all of the resources so that we have the capacity to handle a problem of this magnitude. And as I said earlier, you see that the arrests have gone up considerably from the police department in terms of drug arrests, not just for fentanyl, but just this past weekend, methamphetamine. And you also see the DA continuing time and time again to charge people in these many, many cases. So we're going to continue to do all we can, but this partnership is going to hopefully make a significant difference. I think I want the streets to be safe. I know we all want the streets to be safe, and part of that includes all of the great programs we're doing, but there has to be accountability attached to this, and I think this capacity is going to help us get to a better place. All right, thank you very much.